So tell me one more time. Somebody been saved out there? Tell me, come on. Somebody out there been down before, down and out, and they've been raised back up and brought back in? Yes. Somebody been lost and been found. Somebody been healed out there. Somebody been delivered. Somebody been changed. Somebody been sheltered. Somebody been saved. Now tell me how. How were you saved? Were you saved by community, for example? Somebody been saved by community? How about by music? Anyone been saved by music? Saved by mountains? Saved by, well, you tell me. Saved by the moon? Saved by the sun? Saved by maybe the word of God? Maybe the word of a man? Saved by poetry, maybe? Saved by a new beginning? Or saved by an ending? Maybe the ending of a bad situation, right? Saved by another's light, rekindling your own. Saved by your own light. Saved by forgiveness. Saved by love. Saved by Jesus' love. Saved by God. Well, hallelujah. Because I got to tell you something. I got saved last week. Just this last week. Right here in this very spot, I got saved right up in here in this sanctuary. I was born again by the Spirit of love that was overflowing in this place, flowing through all of you and right into me. I mean, I will tell you from my heart, set apart, sanctified in a way I did not know was possible. Born anew. I got saved by my brother, Reverend Michael Slack, and my dear friend, my sister, Lelena Romero. I got saved by you, Pastor D, and by the chorale again and again and again and again throughout that service. I got saved by the adult choirs, beautiful. You Are the New Day. I got saved by my dear old mentor friend from Chicago, Art. I got saved by the marvelous Mia Wright. Oh my Lord, how I wish she was here so we could just give her a hand clap. Let's do it anyway right now. Saved by my brother, Eric Resley, the Reverend, who's now, it seems, everybody's preacher man up in this joint. Wow. Saved by the Reverend Tandeka and by breath, the breath that she brought us into. Saved by this whole congregation's affirmation, their love, their trust, their charge, their blessing, your love, your trust, your charge, your blessing. Saved by the presence of my family and my friends, and by the tears of my father right here. Saved by Bishop Carlton Pearson and Reverend Marlon Lavenhar. Saved by Barbara Prose. I got to name every name because that's the very particularly radically beautiful vessels through which this saving came. Saved by the spirit of one Reverend Davis, who was sick of body but present in love. By the no other word but anointed singing of Reverend Jeremy Battle, another of my dear brothers. Saved by the power of the faith and ministry and lineage of Reverend Dr. Wolf's ministry, and saved by Beethoven there for a moment, and then saved by Yahweh and Pharrell Williams. I mean, it was quite a day. It was quite a day, and I'm so grateful. And I got the feeling from what I've heard from folks that I actually wasn't the only person that got saved up in there. Did anybody else get born again anew of the Spirit? At least a couple people got born again anew of this Spirit. But wait. How is it possible that I, or Nicole here who raised her hand, anyone else out there that felt saved in that situation, how could we have gotten saved just this past Sunday when we were already saved? When we were born saved? This is a technical foul here, right? Come on, here, let's figure this out here. Come on, we gotta work something out, right? Because that's our gospel, right? that each and every one of us is already included in God's love, just as we are, just as we come into this world, that our salvation is preordained. So how am I getting off saying that I experienced it at my ordination? Did I just forget? Did you? Is it possible that we could forget something? That's kind of a pretty major event, right? Like that, do we really just forget that? And what is the answer to that? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I forgot. You forgot. We forget. We will do it again and again and again. We are forgetful people. We all feel separate from God sometimes, as Reverend Davis was talking about in his prayer. We feel separate from one another. At times, our brokenness overwhelms. The world does not reflect back our beauty to us. Talk to me out there. Am I right? We are not treated always as the holy and loved beings that we are. Not by others, not by ourselves, not by our voices, not by our actions. We're engulfed in grief sometimes. We're gripped by anxiety and fear. We do not feel safe. We do not feel saved. We forget. And because we forget, we need to remember. We need to be reminded. How, for example, the marvelous, dear, prophetic poet powerhouse Mia Wright reminded me last Sunday. She told me later on in the week that she didn't want to just tell me that my ministry had mattered to her, and could matter to others. She wanted to show me how. And that is exactly what she did. She showed us because she reminded us by shining her own radically particular light. As my brother, Reverend Eric Resley, our preacher man, would say. So if it's okay, I just wanted to receive these words from her again this morning because they were so powerful and they are worth the repetition. There is a pathway, winding and fluid, that leads every human to the soul of the world, to the infinite source, to our own fragile hearts. You are not a leader. You are a reminder. For every life you touch, you stand at the mouth of that winding path. Stand, hold in your palm the sacred song of silence, and remind us. We are broken bodies, ragged, throbbing hearts. Remind us how we leapt up once, how we danced and cried, became irresistible to God in our flawed joyousness. We do know. The knowledge writhes quietly beneath the strained muscles of our living, and we forget often. Use your voice to open the tattered gate of truth. Help us to recall how we celebrated once, celebrated everything and nothing, how we swelled as God stepped into us and made a swaying worship of the earth. The pathway to our hearts looks so foreign when we are crumbled. We listen to the wind blow cold through the holes in us. Do not bother being our leader. In these moments of sorrowed forgetting, only open wide your singing soul to us. The memory will flood in through the wounds, a deep honey of healing. Love will dance us back to ourselves. Our feet will rediscover the steps, not because you led, but because you reminded. God bless the holy whisper of the reminders. Saved. Once more. Saved from forgetfulness. Saved for celebration. Saved for loving. Saved for God. God bless the reminders, yes, one of them being Mia Wright. God bless her. And God bless all of the holy reminding friends that Mia had with her last Sunday, including many of you. Because it would have been enough if she just got up and read that poem. Really, it would have been enough. But she was far from alone. She had a whole lot of company, in fact. And yet, if you haven't noticed yet this morning, I'm just going to go ahead and preach my ordination. That's, okay? That is what is happening here, okay? Because, what else is going to be on my heart right now? But as I reflected on this pattern of forgetfulness and remembering anew in the last couple days especially, I found myself embracing it in a new way than I think I had before. I want to share that with you. Because, it's been clear to me before that our work is to remember. But I found myself feeling newly grateful that it is also our nature to forget. I felt in a new way that, yes, we are truly made that way too, on purpose. Internalizing anew how the darkness of forgetfulness is truly needed for the light to shine, for the gift of love, of redemptive, liberating, healing, forgiving love to be received and to be shared with one another. And so I, in a new way, can stand before you today and joyful as I am that I'm already saved, that I was saved even in my mother's womb, that it was preordained that I was saved, that I can also say to you that I am glad that I am also forgetful. Yes, because that way I can keep being reminded, remembered anew through this good news of this salvation, born again and again and again and again. If having a perfect memory meant I never got to be reminded of my salvation by Mia's poetry or by Pastor David's melody or by smiles or by babies or by dance or movement or mountains or skies or suns or moons or colors or bird song by you, all of you, by the salvific gift of community, well, I don't want to have that perfect memory. I don't want to be confused by a perfect memory and tricked into believing that my salvation could ever be experienced apart from you. That is to say, apart from the whole of life and all of its radical particularities. So I am grateful. And I'm grateful not just because I can receive the gift of being reminded, but because I'm able to remind. Because I am gifted to be able to participate in sharing the good news as if sometimes for the first time to my brothers and sisters traveling along this journey with me of our already salvation. But I also want to be honest this morning. I need to be honest, quite frankly. Because the thing is, I know that I don't always remember that I'm okay being forgetful. And maybe I should just say that one more time. I know that I don't always remember that I'm okay with being forgetful. No, indeed. See, I don't know if anyone out there can relate to this experience, but oftentimes I realize that when I receive the gift of reminding and remembering, that when I have these experiences of confirmation of my salvation, of my wholeness, sometimes I just want to hold on to it. Just for a little while at least. Sometimes I just feel how precious it is, how special it is, how powerful it is, and I don't want to lose it. I want to hold on to my salvation. Anybody else out there can relate to that? Tell me about it. I want to put it in the savings and just lock it up. You know what I'm saying? I want to save my salvation. Anybody else can relate out there? I felt that way this week. After being poured into that way, I just wanted to bottle it up and put it on a shelf for a rainy day. I want to just put it in the lock and forget the combination. I just wanted to savor it. I mean, is it really ever going to get better than that? I had to ask myself. That was a home run blessing, and I was safe at home. Woo! And I'm like, yeah, I think I might just stay right here. And then I looked at the preaching calendar. It said, batter up. Are you serious? I'm going to be preached the next Sunday? No, thank you. Maybe you've experienced that where you've had that experience of salvation in your life, and you just want to hold on to the experience itself and the feeling and just keep getting that high like on repeat. You know, for me, it's sometimes in my life, it'd be like, if you ask me to do anything besides blare my praise music and sing as loud as I can, it's like an inconvenient interruption in my salvation experience, no matter what it was. But just, to be real about it, you've traveled long, long roads, each and every one of you, full of tests of faith, sometimes only faintly lit with the light of salvation, but you kept on going and trusting and praying and pushing. And sometimes you reach a point where you finally experience yourself as embraced, just as you are. You feel not just in your faith, but in your actual living, your salvation, just as you are. And you feel that your path has led you precisely to this point. And that's just when somebody says, hey, keep on pushing. And you don't want to, right? Sometimes it's that our salvation has come through a specific relationship, and we want to hold on to that individual, want to hold on to a messenger instead of the message. Maybe now we want to hold on to Reverend Eric Resley. He's nice to hold on to, but he's a vessel. We cannot save our salvation, friends. That's the word that came to my heart for this morning. We can't store it up because it's always flowing freely on offer anew in each moment. Its very character is abundance, and it actually only becomes scarce the minute we try and put it in the safe deposit box. Salvation's nature is of being received and immediately given away, spent freely, unrestrainedly, and then received anew. And this was just a message that came home so powerfully through my ordination, particularly, that is to say, how we can do that spending, how we can participate in that reminding and remembering salvific renewal work. Because there is truly perhaps no greater way to receive and share the gift of unconditioned, preordained salvific love than to become more and more fully the radically particular expression of that love that we each are. No greater way to receive and share the gift of already being saved. No more powerful way to receive and trust in that embrace that embraces us just as we are than to become just as we are, anew, again, each and every day. And brother after born again brother, after sister, after minister, after mentor, last week shined their radically particulated light upon me and upon all of us last Sunday. And each of you added your voices. You actually added your singing voices when Eric asked you to do it. And we felt in that the presence of God's saving love. But you see, this hit me all the more palpably because I know a little bit. Actually, in many cases, I know quite a good bit about the journeys of those holy reminders who gathered around me last week. I know of dark places that they have had to walk through, as they know of mine. I know something of the story of how many times they've each had to be born again, how many times they've each had to be saved such that it's become a practice in their lives. How much faith is what I'm saying is behind the living testimony that they were able to be for me last Sunday. What I'm trying to say is I know just how very much they have not been saving up their salvation, but rather have been allowing it to just flow through them, allowing their faith in their salvation to help them take up their role in the salvation story. Now, in some ways, it's strange to single out just one story, just one voice. I could really choose any one of the great cloud of witnesses that gathered here last week, but it came to my heart to share a little bit more of the story of my brother, Reverend Michael Slack, with you all before I close here. Just as one example of a radical commitment to trusting in that salvific flow, to trust that it will keep flowing. He is, for me, a living example of the radical trust in salvation's abundance that we are each called to in order to become more and more the gift that we each are. Now, Michael, I think he shared with you all, I got in just a little bit late, but I think he shared with you all that he's a transgender man. Well, he is. And an African-American, as you can see, transgender man, an African-American transgender Christian Unitarian Universalist minister. Actually, he's had quite a journey, as you can imagine. You don't even have to tell the story, but he describes his journey as towards singing his song with his true voice. More than anything, of course, an incredible journey of faith. And he shared a lot of this story with me over the years, but he recently wrote this powerful retelling of it for an article in the current issue of the UU World, the Unitarian Universalist World, which you may have found if you're a member here, you get that delivered to you, or you could see it online. But that's the rendition of it that I want to share with you this morning, using a lot of his own words. So Michael's grandma, Louise, used to tell a story about him over and over again about when he was a little girl. Every time I went to the bank, Louise said, I used to take her with me. And one of the days, one of the ladies asked if she liked to sing. And so she broke out with some Hot Pants by James Brown, with her hands on her hips. She even claps down on one knee like he used to do. And then every time after that they went in there to the bank, she would put a show for everyone. Music has been woven into the fabric of Michael's entire life. In his own words, he says, the older I got, the more I listened to it, the more I sang. And the more I sang, the more nuanced my choices became about what I wanted to sing and how I wanted my voice to sound. I wasn't fully aware of it at the time, but this was where I carried the most worry about being able to be myself, where my struggles with my gender would most often show up. I always knew who I was. The boy I understood myself to be showed up in my imagination when I looked in the mirror. That strapping young man with those cool thin sideburns, a medium fade with a cool afro on top and a goatee. Saw leather, black jacket, like the one my dad used to wear, and boots. My voice was a lot deeper, and my chest was a lot smaller. Michael tells of how two of his favorite songs when he was growing up were Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds and With or Without You by U2. And he wanted so badly to sing those really low notes in those songs, and he was just so frustrated that he couldn't get down there. It crushed him. Michael began his transition in 2005 while he was in seminary, hormone therapy in 2006, and he said everything just opened up for him. For the first time after 30 plus years of life, he writes, I felt like myself. My body started to change. My voice began to deepen. I carried myself in the world differently, more confidently, no longer willing to sit idly by, living a half life. I disclosed my gender identity to the seminary community, to my family of origin, and all of them held me in the ways that they knew how. Had I not received their love and support, I don't know where I would be right now. I went through puberty at 33. My voice cracking, and it was equal parts beautiful and horrifying. Beautiful because it represented my dream coming true, and horrifying because I'd heard of trans men losing their ability to hear pitch and sometimes their singing voices all together. And for 2 years, I hardly sang at all out of fear of what would come out. Then gradually, Michael began to try his new voice out. And he grew more and more and more comfortable and confident with it. and he found that his voice was far from lost. It was found. And he was so happy to be able to feel that it was his voice at last. After about 6 months of this new adventure with his new singing voice, in 2009, Michael was invited to sing "Precious Lord, Take My Hand" with a friend on Easter Sunday. He happily agreed. They rehearsed several times. Everything was going well. This was going to be a resurrection Sunday indeed for him. But the morning of the service came, and when they showed up, just for the sound check, something had happened, seemingly overnight. His voice had dropped again, significantly. And it was so deep, in fact, that he couldn't sing the part that he'd spent weeks learning. And as you can imagine, after everything he'd already gone to finally felt that he'd come into his voice and to be on the cusp of using it on Easter Sunday morning to celebrate his salvation, to instead to be thrown that total curveball, well, in Michael's words, I freaked. He freaked. And then he breathed, as Reverend Tondeka probably would have advised him. He breathed in and out, and he prayed. He got on his knees, and he prayed for strength, for guidance, for salvation anew in this storm. And he counted his many, many blessings, grateful for the life he'd been given, grateful for his voice, now still deeper. And he regrouped with his singing partner. They rearranged some things, and they stepped forward anew on faith to do what they'd come to do on that Easter Sunday morning. Michael writes that this moment stays with me because it taught me that high voice, low voice, or something in between, however I present or seek to live out my gender, what matters most is my willingness to offer my truth on any day, to bring my whole self. I think what Michael and the community experienced that Easter morning was truly an example of what resurrection can look like and mean. Michael talks about feeling vulnerable, how real it felt, but ultimately it didn't matter what he sounded like, but that he had, with the help of friends and prayer and God, been able to ride yet another transformation, another experience of being changed, of being made new. He didn't get in the way. And it was good. And it was good. Friends, the main point which I hope I've made plain enough this morning, I'll try and make it just a little bit more plain right now here to close, is that though our salvation is preordained, it is not a one-time event. We cannot save our having been saved. Our salvation is ours to realize anew time and time again, day after new day. Universal salvation is a practice that can shape our whole lives, a practice that enables us to become who we really are, each of us holy reminderers, each of us expressions as well as receivers of this salvific love. Each of our voices needed to keep the salvation river flowing in our souls. Every time we risk showing up fully, authentically to one another and are embraced as we are, every time we see and embrace one another when they authentically show up, we are renewing and realizing our salvation. We're getting saved together all over again. So don't save your salvation. Spend it lavishly. Spend it the way that Mary spent it, when she took that pound of costly perfume made of pure nard and anointed Jesus' feet and wiped them with her hair, filling the house with the fragrance of perfume. This is the kind of abundant, excessive, and radically, particularly, quite atypical expression of love with which we're called to respond to the unconditional salvific gift of love. Not conserving our resources in fear, not holding our voices back, but trusting in the renewable resource of love to keep flowing through us so that we might be born again in love anew this day and be thus living testimonies. Some moments, though, are indeed special reminders. Last week certainly was one for me. But I pray that it will be a touchstone that only encourages me forward, deeper on the journey of salvation. Don't turn around. I hear a chorus of witnesses singing with me. We've come this far by faith. One of the most moving reminders I actually received last weekend wasn't even in this service. There was a whole lot that happened all around it. And it quite fittingly came from my godmother. She offered me some words of blessing that she found in a book which she gave to me by John O'Donohue. And I just want to share it with you as a reminder that if our hearts are open to it, we are always, as we move into Easter Sunday morning ourselves, always on the cusp of a new beginning. So just close your eyes and let this fall upon you. Unfurl yourself in the grace of new beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease and risk, for soon you will be home in a new rhythm. For your soul senses the world that awaits you. Unfurl yourself in the grace of beginning. Amen.
Love will guide us, peace has guide us, hope inside us, will lead the way on the road from grief to giving. Love will guide us.
We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVE-BB to 41444 or go to our website. But you can just text LOVE-BB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.